Today we're looking at Krishna's Empty. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Krishna's Empty is kind of a black, but maybe a black-brownish kind of ink, and it's a part of their specialty series. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put that ink into a Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately dunk it into water for 10 to 15 seconds, and we see this very light magenta-y color across the bottom. Brown pushes its way up, and then we get black across the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. We see that line across the bottom, much more permanent, much more there. Really, almost a purpley magenta, very, very neat color. The pink or magenta color that pushes up, not a whole lot of it. The brown comes in much earlier, becomes much darker, and the black across the top, much more of it. There's a significant change just for letting it dry for 10 minutes. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it does not like being reactivated. It got gross. It got really hard to deal with. And that's kind of a big deal in that I didn't expect it based on how the other resistance tests went. I would not use this in a note-taking situation if I was someone who went back and highlighted things. Water reactivates and pulls up all of the darkest parts of the ink, but leaves a ton of ink behind. It is not wanting to come off the paper. Pen Flush did basically the same thing that water did. It did not pull anything more than the water, which makes me say Pen Flush isn't really getting us to where we need to be. Now bleach, while it picked up and removed almost all of the ink off the page, it's leaving this tan behind. This tan is a remnant of that brown that is so dark. Test this ink in one of your less expensive pens before putting it into your very expensive Viscosity Medici and not knowing what you're doing on the inside. That's all that means to me. For the inks I've tested, I found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Krishna's Empty has a viscosity of 1.91, which makes it a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Krishna's Empty has an average dry time of 15 seconds, so despite it being very wet, its dry time is totally normal. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in bottle form back when I ordered a whole bunch of these. This one was a little leaky and it's got smuts on it. Always gets on my hands. Otherwise, no real problem. This is, I wish their bottles were bigger in general. They're not. It's funny because in this, and just to show it, it does show sheen. The smear on some of the Krishna inks shows like they should be sheen monsters. Why I don't care for the swabs as a way to see the color, it sometimes lies. Quite a bit lies. A lot lies. Lies more than it's honest. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I use a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does show shits, sorry. It doesn't. There's no defecation on this paper. I apologize. It shows shading. Shading. Why couldn't I say that word? Maybe it's a day I'm not looking forward to. I don't know. I don't have anything bad going on today. I don't get it. I apologize. I don't really curse. I don't even know why that came out. It shows shading. It goes from a really nice brown into a black, and that's what is very neat about this. Is a very nice brown ink that comes across as black quite a bit. So wow, great for a professional environment, because it often comes out to be such a dark brown that it looks black, or it's brown that people aren't so used to seeing and wouldn't even think that it is brown. It's nice. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, with 9 seconds to dry. Noticeably lighter tone than what I got with the 1.1, and it is noticeably lighter than what I'm going to get in the medium. The medium gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It took 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby showed us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear test says you could likely recover this. So I look at Tomoe River. Why are you fighting? Tomoe River gives us no bleeding. Of course we get ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It is making it more obviously a brown. The extra fine gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 15 seconds to dry. It's the same tone that we got with the 1.1. It's even the same tone that we get with the medium. The medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear test, you likely aren't going to recover this. So, Rhodia paper. It has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. Very dark verge of that black color. Little bit lighter tone for the extra fine. Still very, very dark brown on the verge of that black, just lighter than we got with the 1.1. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Noticeably darker tone than the extra fine. The scrubby for both shows us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear test says you could likely recover this. So I got curious if a lighter paper lets us see some of that brown a little more than the black. The yellow Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. And it made a very nice difference. The 1.1, it brings out the brown. It brings out the brown with the extra fine. It doesn't really do anything for the medium. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The fine, lighter tone, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The medium, it looks black there, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The smear test says you could likely recover it. And then we get the notes to back up and look at that. You know, I do like using broad nibs. I like testing the inks in broad nibs. I don't use them in the writing samples because it seems like not a lot of people use the broads really. Medium is the most common, which makes a lot of sense. With a broad, this is black. This is black. Without a doubt, black. We don't see any of the brown tones with a broad, wet nib. So I tested this on their own paper. That I say their own paper. The paper they were selling in their store. It came in these notebooks. Very nice. I really enjoy the paper that the experience from it. Toothier paper, much toothier paper. On the majority, it performs fantastic. But what in the world happened here? I think this is the first time we saw bleeding like this.
Now, it didn't touch the page underneath, but it really bled through. Again, did not touch the page underneath. That's more than ghosting right there. So that kind of gives us the idea that this could be a bit more of an aggressive ink. Back when we saw the chromatography, we see how much does get left. The 1.1, it has feathering. It looks like that's spread. It has spread. So it has feathering and it has spread in the 1.1. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has spread, has feathering. It has feathering all over it. It makes it look blurry. Tiny feathers all over. 4 seconds to dry. No halo, sheen, or shade. The medium, while it is a darker tone, it does have spread. It does have crazy feathering all over it. It's a little distracting to look at. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The smear test says you could likely recover it, but who would want to use this in their pocket notebook? I would really, on this ink, I would test it on any paper you want to use it when it's not the premium. Just looking at this, because this paper is done so well in so many tests, and some of the other stuff I've done, it's been a little more aggressive than you would hope for. It's just that warning that, just because it does well on these premium papers doesn't mean it's going to do well on everything. And really take a look. Yep. So I tested, this is Bristol board. It's nice to do artwork with ink sometimes. It's just fun. It's a fun little medium. It doesn't have any bleeding. It doesn't have any ghosting. Ghosting is not, normal. Occasionally, you might find something that actually does bleed through if you're putting it on stupid thick. But that's one of the reasons this is nice to use. Plus, it really shows the color well. Now, it shows the color well in all of its muted glory. It tones an ink down into its base color. So, I like these. I like the Bristol. I think it makes good swabs. If someone wants swabs to see the base color, I think Bristol's really good. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, sheen, or shade. Took 7 seconds to dry. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. But the smear test says you likely couldn't recover it. But the nice thing is because you can wet this and move it, you might be able to put it down, wet it, and move it to shade into an area if you're doing some artwork with ink. And I may find that out one day if I choose to use this one to do just a little bit. And that's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Krishna's Empty, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, Krishna's Empty has a tendency to be kind of black and kind of brown, so we need to find a color that would work very nice with it. I thought a great orange would do, and I chose Noodler's Summer Tanager because it is a great orange ink. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Krishna's Empty? I think it's a confused black or brown. Is it a confused brown with black? I can't tell. It's neat. I think it can get by very well in a professional environment because of how it is brown but maybe black. And I think it would be really nice to be able to be talking about writing with your pen that is empty while you're writing with it, to be confusing about the black and the brown. But it's a fun ink. Thanks for watching.